Good evening. It is 6:30. Members of council are assembled when you're ready to begin.
Well, thank you, Don, and good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this very last Committee of the Whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores. Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores will never meet in Committee of the Whole again. Made some procedural changes last year that put an end to Committee of the Whole for this year. So if you're nostalgic, now's the time. Think back on all your fondest memories of the Committee of the Whole, because this will be it. All right, we will keep meeting though as a regular council, just so you know, we're not going to stop meeting altogether. All right. So second item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement. I'll turn that over to Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for the contributions they have made in both caring for the land and in shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation, which begins with each and every one of us. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning about Indigenous culture, to fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people, and we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing along with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Thank you. Third item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do so anytime if you need to. Next item on the agenda is, Deputy Mayor. Next item on the agenda is additions, deletions, amendments. We don't have any of those, or maybe we do, the Deputy Mayor.
I'm sure I'll be deemed out of order, but I would just like to, on behalf of council, everyone here and all the residents of Saugeen Shores, congratulate you and wish you great success on your appointment, your election, your selection as the warden for the County of Bruce for the next year. That happened last Thursday at County Council, and I just didn't want them.
Thank you.
I knew you.
Well, all right, Diana, I'll let it be in order.
I knew you wouldn't say anything yourself, so congratulations.
Thank you, much appreciated. All right, so next item on the agenda is open forum, and we do have one open forum request this evening. It's from Rob Stanley and Connie Barker, and they're here to speak to us about the budget 2025 and business plan. So come on up, you have 3 minutes, Rob and Connie.
Wisely, Connie.
Make sure that the microphone's on there before you get started there. Yep, you got it.
Mayor Charbonneau, Deputy Mayor Huber, Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt, and distinguished councillors. Connie Barker, representing the Pumpkin Fest Committee, and me, Rob Stanley, representing Saugeen Sparks Training Center, have submitted a joint proposal seeking funding from the town 2025 budget in order to extend a lease agreement which will be shared by both parties until December 31st, 2025. The center currently occupies this building under consideration, located at 663 Green Street in Port Elgin. And through its generosity, the town of Saugeen Shores currently pays the annual lease, which is set to expire on March 31st, 2025. The requested funding to extend the current lease is crucial for both Saugeen Sparks Training Center and the Pumpkin Fest Committee, as their operational sustainability and growth are at pivotal moments in their respective journeys. We jointly urge the town to recognize the immense value that these organizations bring and to support their continued operation through this funding request. Why should council approve this funding request? The center is an important institution in the town, dedicated to empowering the youth of Grey Bruce and Huron counties through skills development training. Well regarded for its commitment to excellence in skills training and community support, the center has built a strong reputation for delivering high-quality programs that meet the needs of both regional participants and local employers. Over the past year, our instructors have trained 213 participants whose employability skills have led to employment opportunities. Having this dedicated office space is essential for the center to effectively plan, develop, and administer its training programs. The center is currently planning to utilize part of the building in 2025 to deliver virtual skills training and wraparound support to students to enhance their employability. And without this space, the center would struggle to effectively manage its training programs and maintain its critical presence in the community. The support and recognition from the town are crucial in enabling the center to continue its valuable work.
Now you realize you left me a minute and a half. Okay. Pumpkin Fest being a cherished and event organized by the Pumpkin Fest Committee here in Saugeen Shores, operates for mostly 39 years. We're going into our 40th anniversary. And what we're looking for is we're looking for space where we can be more visible in our community. It will be easier for us to lure in more sponsors, hire more staff, and hopefully run the event that we have in the past, help us grow. The office space increases our visibility with the community, making it more accessible. Securing the joint office lease arrangement is essential for Pumpkin Fest to maintain its operational efficiency and to support its growth and ensure that the continued success of the event that brings significant economic and social benefit to the town. And right now, Pumpkin Fest is in a looking for directors to help on our 40th anniversary. So if there's anybody that doesn't sit on a committee and has a passion for giant pumpkins, we're ready.
All right.
In conclusion, the request for an additional $30K in funding to extend the current lease until December 31st, 2025 is a crucial investment in the sustained success and growth of both the training center and Pumpkin Fest. And by securing this funding, the town will ensure that the center continues to provide vital training programs that enhance the employability and economic prospects of our residents and youth across the region, while also supporting Pumpkin Fest, a community event that drives significant economic benefit and community spirit in Saugeen Shores. The funding for office space is not an operational necessity for both organizations. It's an investment in the future success and sustainability of both the center and Pumpkin Fest. And thank you for considering our proposal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to delegations. This evening, we have one presentation and two delegations. And so we'll start with our presentation this evening. And that is to the Marine Heritage Society in recognition of their 2024 Architectural Conservancy Ontario Peter Stokes Restoration Award that they were given. And I have just a few words that were actually drafted for me by Councillor Cheryl Grace, and I appreciate that. On October 17th in Toronto, Saugeen Shores Marine Heritage Society was awarded the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario's Peter Stokes Restoration Award for small-scale projects. Composed of architects and heritage experts, the ACO's annual awards ceremony recognizes the work of groups and individuals who have preserved historic community assets through their research, restoration, and craftsmanship. The Marine Heritage Society was nominated by the town's Municipal Heritage Committee for its meticulous restoration of the Southampton Harbour's historic Front Range Light. Built in 1903, the Front Range Light is a nationally designated historic site and still operates to guide boaters into Southampton Harbour. The winter of 2019-20 was very destructive, with high water levels, storms, and heavy ice causing significant damage. In planning for its rebuild, MHS volunteers carefully preserved heritage features while building for long-lasting durability. The MHS raised funds with extremely generous donations from the community, even through the pandemic. Local builders Derek Seaman and Scott Good contributed their time and expertise. In an amazing display of volunteer commitment, MHS volunteers donated many hours, including hand painting 3,700 new cedar shakes to replace the water-worn cedar shingles. The Marine Heritage Society is also very grateful to everyone who donated funds, especially Jane Kramer, Walker House, and Southampton Rotary. At the ACO Awards ceremony, the Marine Heritage Society was represented by Chair Wayne Kaufman and board members Vicky Tamori and Deb Kaufman, all of whom I believe are in the room this evening. We would like to also recognize the leadership of past Chair Eric Tolton, Nancy Calder for her photos of the restoration process, and John Matlock for his hours of work on the award nomination. Thanks also to Municipal Heritage Committee member Fran Barrick for first suggesting this nomination, and to Fran, Linda Dahl, and Cheryl Grace for their assistance with research and writing, and to Frank Burrows and his staff for their guidance throughout the process. In his comments while accepting the award, Chair Wayne Kaufman ended by saying, quote, "We make history come alive," end quote. with countless other accomplishments such as seasonal tours to the restored Chantry Island Keeper's Cottage and Lighthouse, more recent restoration on the Back Range Light, and the annual Marine Heritage Festival, and operating the summer-long Marine Heritage Market in Southampton, we agree. As for the award we recognize tonight, while the range light restoration was considered a small-scale project by judging standards, it required a big-time effort to fundraise and repair the beacon. The town and the people of the town are grateful to the Marine Heritage Society and to all of its volunteers for leading this community effort, and to the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario for recognizing this important landmark. How about a big round of applause for the Marine Heritage Society?
Sure, yeah. Where do I start? Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Charbonneau and Council. As the chair of the Marine Heritage Society, I am here on behalf of the great volunteers that truly support our efforts preserving and restoring our rich marine history along the shores of Lake Huron. Unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, you missed a few people. These are our current volunteers, and if you've got a few minutes, I'd start. No. I'm here representing everyone. So with me tonight are many of my board members as well as volunteers. Scott Good will speak to you about the actual work that went on at the Range Light, and I believe Derek Seaman is with us as well. So Vicky Kamori will talk about the donors that support to make these works possible. I have to thank the Municipal Heritage Society for entering this Front Range restoration for the Peter Stokes Restoration Award to the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario, as well as a special mention to Councillor Cheryl Grace and John Matlock for all their work putting forward this submission. Vicky, Deb, and I made a one-day trip to the Distillery District in downtown Toronto. We did not know we had won when we left home. We were chosen as one of 3 recipients. We were confident we'd win, though. The final decision was made at the 18th Heritage Awards celebration at the Arta Gallery in the heart of the Toronto Distillery District. It would have been a long drive home that night if we had not been successful. It was a one-day adventure, a long drive there and back, a subway ride downtown, a streetcar ride to the event, and get home at 2 o'clock in the morning. But this made it all worthwhile because we brought it home with us. In closing, I'd like to thank Council for recognizing the MHS for this prestigious award, and I only have one ask of Council, that if it would be possible that they could find a place for our awards for the community to see our awards. We're on a roll. This is our 2nd provincial award this year, and I'm certain there will be more recognition of this remarkable group of volunteers. Again, thank you for this special recognition. We will be back in the new year to update Town Council and the town of our upcoming 2025 events. Tours to the island, Artisans Market, and our 15th annual Marine Heritage Festival. We already have some new events planned for the festival. I'd like to turn this over to Scott Good, our board member that is in charge of the range lights and had a great deal of input on how this work was completed. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. It started for me with a call from Vicky telling me to get hold of Frank Burrows that we've raised all this money and this range light needs to get started right away. So I jumped right in and in 2021, got to work on it. My responsibility basically was the top half from the top of the shingles on up. We put up a barricade around the outside so we could contain all the dust from the lead paint that was all removed. So I worked on that through 2021, and then we got after some research with Derek Seaman, we found the shingles we needed, and the volunteers went to work painting those, or staining rather, the 3,700 shingles you mentioned. Over 10 sessions in our boathouse. And then we turned it over to Derek to do the work, and thank you for Derek for teaching us how to do the shingles, so it allowed us to do the rear range light with over 800 hours of volunteer work just this fall. So I recommend you go have a look at it. It's not quite as pretty as the work Derek's guys did, but we did our best, and it was a lot of fun doing it. So yeah, I really appreciate the honor. I consider it an honor to be able to work on those range lights, and an honor to be put on the board to help take care of them and keep them looking good for a long, long time. Thanks.
So I'm just to tell you a few things about how we raised the money to get that range light restored. So we tried to plan, because of COVID, we were trying to plan some events, but then we were contacted by the Southampton Rotary, who already had an event in place, and they named it Jazz for the Light. So they kicked it off. They kicked off the fundraising for us. They had a wonderful event, and they came up with $14,500 to start our fund. At the end of the year and a half of fundraising, and it wasn't really fundraising, like I said, we couldn't really do any events because of COVID. People just caught on to it, and there was just checks coming in the mail and phone calls. Can you put this on my Visa? Can you? Anyway, we ended up creating the account of $70,000. So it's actually $70,161.25 to be exact. So 95 people donated towards the range light. And there was amounts of $14,500 for Southampton Rotary. We had $15,000 from the Walker House, $10,000 from Jane Kramer. I'm not going to name them all off, but we had some great business. OPG, $2,000. Dale Robinette, $2,000. Chantry Island Chambettes, $2,000. The Chesley Docking Committee, $1,500. The Colemans, Dennis and Letha Coleman, $1,000. Bob and Peggy Savage, $1,000. Casual Corners, $1,000. Kathy Sprague and Gavin Fick, $1,000. Port Elgin Port Elgin District Lions Club, and Domino's Pizza. So we had 15 people give us $1,000 or more, and then the other 80 people was between $10 and $500, and that added up to $70,000. Now the actual materials cost about $37,000. The labor was in kind, so the labor was donated by Derek Seaman and Sons Contracting, which was amounted to about $35,000. So our community has so much support for these range lights. It's incredible. And we still have money pouring in for the rear range light now that it's finished. We've got to think about McNabb. There's other issues going on too. So again, all I can do is thank the community for the support that we get, thank the council and the town staff for the support that we get for all the projects that Marine Heritage gets involved with. And thanks for the salutation tonight, so.
Thank you.
I'm not going to leave this year.
I know.
until
Oh, I thought we got
have
to
a
keep.
place to hang it.
I will say, and you had requested a place to put it, and I'm quite certain that the municipality can find a place to display that award and all of the awards. I mean, you guys, we don't see anybody here more often than the Marine Heritage Society because you guys just keep winning awards. So, and certainly I'm sure our staff can work with you to find a spot to prominently display those awards because you so richly deserve that. And so I just want to say thanks to you, Wayne, and to Scott and Vicky. And Scott had said that he was honored to get to work on the range lights, and I can say that people of the community are honored to have folks like you who are willing to do that work and preserve those important things for our community. So thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I'd just like to ask Derek, would you like to say anything tonight without Eric's volunteering his staff to not only shingle the front, but he taught us how to do the rear one. So he's done 2 of them for us now. So thank you, Derek, for all your help.
Another round of applause for these guys. Thanks very much. All right, so that moves us on now to our second item, 6.2, second delegation, which is from Dave Bertrand, and he's here to speak to us about Rotary Winterama Committee and the 2025 Winterama. Mr. Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor Luke and council. Yeah, I'm here on behalf of the Winterama 2025 committee, which is a partnership of Rotary clubs. And I was thinking originally I was coming here with my hat in hand again, but I got the good news from Rotarian Rob Hughes that you folks had already approved the rental of the ice for our skate on February 17th and the rental of the room for the celebration afterwards. So I come here thanking you for your generosity and just to tell you a little bit about Winterama to promote it. Last year was a successful year. We had 1,557 students from 8 different schools participating, being active in February. And while they were being active, they raised $28,000 for their schools. So it was a successful campaign from the school point of view. We had a challenge to the schools. We have a company called NPX, which is a supplier company to Bruce Power, I believe. They designed a website 2 years ago, and they revamped the website for a journey across Canada so that the schools could, the students logged their kilometers individually and were able to compete with others in their class and in their school. But also the website added all their kilometers together so the schools could go on a digital journey across Canada. And we had 5 of the 8 schools make it. And the ones that didn't got did pretty well getting to where they did. 7,927 kilometers from St. John's to Vancouver. And we were very appreciative of town council helping us with our expenses. Because the one issue is the success has also led to more costs because we give awards to the kids who get certain levels of kilometers doing winter activities, and our expenses were about $5,700 last year. So that money that you guys give to us as far as the Reno rental did help. And other than that, I did have a little presentation to show off, but I was late getting it to you folks, so no pictures. But I just wanted to say that the campaign was a successful one, and we thank you very much for your support. And we hope this year our journey is to the North Pole. So kids are going to be racing to the North Pole. And one thing that happened last year is we ended up having schools getting to Vancouver by middle of February. So they just kept going. So this year we have a backup plan. If they get to the North Pole and it's the middle of February, we're just going to let them keep going around the ice cap. And then they're going to hop on an iceberg or something and get to Norway and keep going down. They could eventually get to Rome. So we have a backup plan. But anyways, we're looking forward to another successful campaign, and thank you very much.
Sounds like a great journey. Thanks, Dave. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? I don't see any, so do you have Councilor Grace?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, Dave, thank you, and I'm sure everybody else is thinking what you guys take on and what you accomplish is just constant and endless, and it's such a great contribution to our community. So thank you, and this is a wonderful way to involve kids in schools.
Thank you. Further comments? Yeah, I just must say the same thing. Thanks for your work on this, Dave. You guys have done this for, how many years has Winterama been going on now?
It's been going on for 23 years. This is our 23rd year. Now it's changed since COVID. It changed. We got into this kilometer thing. That was sort of my little baby, but, and it used to be a lot of Rotary clubs right from, Wyerton, maybe even, Lion's Head. And it's now contracted, but, we still got 8 schools involved and a lot of kids. So we're happy that we're keeping it chugging along.
Yeah, well, it's a great event. I know the kids love. In fact, I was at the Santa Claus Parade and Bearorama was there, and I saw some kids who were probably close to 19, or kids, they're hardly kids, they were grown up, and they said, "Oh, it's Bearorama," right? They all remember Bearorama from, so that 23 years, you know, it's now created great memories for kids and now adults. So it's a fantastic thing. And thanks to the Rotary Club and to you for doing it.
You're
Thanks for that.
welcome, and we hope to see some of you at the skate on February 17th. Bearorama will be there.
Excellent. We'll look forward to that. Thanks, Dave. Okay, so now we'll move on to our third delegation, which is from Ramin Ganji on behalf of Splash City Fun Park Incorporated. And they're here with a letter of interest for inflatable water park in Port Elgin. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone. Before we start, we maybe like to start with a little intro video to give it a little context to what we're presenting. But without this video, it'd be a little bit more difficult. So, please.
Back once again. 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 With the beat. With the beat. Back once again. With the beat. Let the bass kick. Once again, back once again, back once again, back once again, back once again with a beat, back once again, back once again, back once again with a back once again with a beat, back once again, back once again, back once again, back once again, back once again with a beat, back once again, back once again, back once again, back once again, back once again with a beat, let the bass kick.
Once again.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present an exciting project for the Port Elgin community, a floating inflatable aqua park. My name is Ramin Ganji. I represent the Splash City Fun Park who run this project. Today, I and my colleague, Mr. Claude from the Vivid Canada, want to share how this project can enhance Port Elgin recreational offering, attract tourists, and provide economic and social benefit, all while respecting the community natural beauty. What is the inflatable aqua park? An inflatable aqua park is a modular floating obstacle course that offers fun, safe, and active recreation on the water. It is designed for all ages, making it ideal family-friendly attraction. The park is made of high-quality, eco-friendly material from Germany, ensuring durability and minimal environmental impact. Purpose location. We propose to install the aqua park along the shore of Port Elgin. This area is perfect due to the accessibility, beautiful waterfront, and proximity to local business that can benefit from the increased foot traffic. Community benefit. One, recreational opportunity. This park will provide a unique and active way for residents and visitors to enjoy Port Elgin waterfront. It will be encourage physical activity, teamwork, and outdoor fun for participants for all ages. Two, economic growth. The park will grow the tourists from neighborhood community and beyond, boosting local business like restaurant, shop, and accommodation. Similar park in other towns have increased visitor number and generated significant economy activity. Three, social connection. An aqua park become a gathering place, a spot where family, friend, and neighbor connect, creating lasting memory and fostering a strong sense of community. Four, job creation. The project will create seasonal jobs, including park attendant, lifeguard, and maintenance staff, providing employment opportunity for Port Elgin residents. Safety measures. Safety is our top priority. The park will be staffed with a certified lifeguard and attendant, and participants will require to wear life jacket. Additionally, the park design ensures a safe, controlled environment for users. Implementation timeline. We aim to have a park operational by mid of the June next year, ensuring they're ready for the peak summer season. Installation typically takes less than a month, and we will work closely with the city official to ensure all necessary permits and inspection are completed. Vision of future. Imagine Port Elgin as a must-visit summer destination with family returning year after year to enjoy Aqua Park and town natural beauty. This project will not only enhance the quality of life for residents, but also solidify Port Elgin reputation as a vibrant, innovative, and community-focused town. Recap. An inflatable aqua park is more than just a recreational facility. It is catalyzed for economic growth, community connection, and enhanced quality of life. It aligns perfectly with Port Elgin value and vision of future. We are excited about the opportunity to bring this project to life and look forward to your support and collaboration. We are here to answer any question and discuss the next step to make this vision a reality for Port Elgin. Thank you again for your time and consideration. Let's work together to bring this exciting project to our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you both. So we'll take some questions or comments from members, but first just note that the next step would be to refer this to our staff and that they would come back to us with reports and recommendations on it. So that would be how we would proceed, but we'll look to members of council for comments. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Just five quick questions. Surely they'll be easily answered, I'm sure. The location that you showed there, we have a life-saving group in town that has competitions, practices. It's right around that same vicinity that they use that beach space. But as far as location, that could be shifted slightly, obviously. You're not married to that exact spot there, are you?
I can take over.
Sure.
Absolutely not. I mean, obviously, we're looking for a location that
Yeah.
can accommodate any group. I mean, we're
Yeah.
we're not married to.
And perhaps they could ship too. It's just location. It's a very vibrant group in town that uses that waterfront extensively. How many employees approximately would you be hiring? How many employees approximately?
You're looking between probably 8 to 12
8 to 12,
students.
depending on the usage, right?
Just make sure, guys, when you're speaking, to speak right into that microphone so folks online can
8
hear
to
you.
12 students.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The square footage, like meter wise, wide, width, length?
52, this is a medium park size, 52 by 27
Meters?
meters, yes.
52 by 27?
Yes, 52 by 27.
Is it, what are the, I was at one years ago in the city of Barrie. Is that your installation or is that someone else?
That is one of my customers, yes. I'm the Canadian representative for Whibbit for Canada, and I've been working with Barrie for a number of
How many sites do you have across Canada?
For Whibbit, probably, I mean, we have a lot of indoor facilities, we have camps, campgrounds, but with these type of activities, probably 13.
13?
Sorry, yeah, 13, maybe 15, yeah.
What kind of depth of water do you need? What's the depth you need?
Strict minimum water depth is 6 feet.
6 feet?
When we do have towers such as this project here, considering the fact that it would probably be a fairly busy site, we're looking at 8 feet of water depth.
Yeah, it's fairly shallow there. You've obviously, you've been here in the summertime? Have you walked out?
Well, we look at the marine maps and we should have about 8 feet at a certain area that we had scoped out.
Gotcha.
But we do understand that the whole area is fairly shallow.
What's the approximate cost for a half hour versus a 1 hour? I'm assuming people, when they use the structure, the aqua park, would use it for half an hour, maybe an hour. What approximately is the cost for a half hour, an hour?
Well, typically if we're talking about Barrie, they work with 2-hour time slots. And anything below 1 hour gets very complicated with rotations. And so if we're doing Barrie for a 2-hour time slot, we're looking at $28 for a 2-hour time slot.
Yeah. And you, with your 13 locations, there must be some kind of a leasing agreement that you strike with the municipality, right?
Every site has.
And I'm sure it ranges from dollar value A to dollar value Z.
Correct. Those are the type of conversations that we typically have in the municipality after.
Yeah. This be one of your smaller markets?
I'm sorry?
Would this be one of your smaller markets?
No, I don't think so. This would actually be a very decent one, I think, by experience. If I'm considering, obviously Barrie in Ontario is the biggest site by far.
Yeah.
This would probably be bigger than Aurelia, which is a sister company from Barrie.
Yeah.
So I'd say probably between a Barrie and Aurelia, I'd say in terms of size and capacity and traffic and throughput.
The day I was there, it was packed. It was just
Always packed.
big attraction. And the kids just thoroughly enjoyed it, right? Your operation is 12 weeks, 16 weeks? How long is your operation?
70 days, actually.
Pardon me?
70 days.
70 days?
Yes, so we are starting mid of the June and closing the
July and
Labor
August.
Day.
Labor Day weekend, you close up? Yep. Thanks very much.
Councillor Mayette, and then the deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks, gentlemen. It looks really exciting. I'm not sure I'd find myself out there, but I think a lot of kids would. We run a number of activities down on the beach. The Life Saving Club was one, but we have a fishing derby every year, and usually in around the middle of July to beginning of August, we get some pretty heavy winds, and sometimes the derbies fishermen can't get out for days on end. What do you do in the case of inclement weather?
You want me to take over?
Yeah, please.
Just by experience. Absolutely, we do understand that sometimes, especially these type of setups in open water, and this is considered open water and by description. Typically, when we get very windy days, wavy days, typically we'll close the park off when it becomes unsafe. We do have like a chart that we use. X feet of wave action, we'll close the park down. The park itself can withstand a pretty high amount of wind and waves. The products are really engineered to withstand this type of beating and abuse. We have hundreds of parks all across the world and oceanfront properties with the winds, tides, salt, everything. But it's more a question of safety for the users. So when it does come very windy, typically it'd be like an afternoon thing, probably between 3 and 4. We would more likely shut down the park and wait until they become safe for use.
Okay, and you'd have lifeguards on duty on the structure all the time? And it's anchored to the lake bed, is that right? What do you do at night? Do you just pull the plug and deflate it? No,
We hire security overnight. A typical setup will take between 2 and 3 days. The initial setup due to anchoring concrete blocks to put in place. That's the type of operation that we'll set up at the beginning of summer, take down the end of the summer. So we'll have overnight security to make sure that no one goes out.
so it'll be inflated the whole time?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, thank you.
The deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To follow up on a couple of things that my colleagues have said, I was glad that the Vice Deputy Mayor asked about the size. It's the size 52 meters by 27 meters is translated into feet, is about 160 feet by 81 feet. That's the equivalent of about two, lots in town, two building lots, just for perspective. I did want to ask though, in the presentation that we got, Councillor Mayette just asked about concrete blocks, and it was mentioned in the presentation as well. I'm curious as to the jurisdiction we have in this location, because this is provincial space. So, what I hope that when staff get asked, if they get asked to do some kind of report, that there be consideration given to the fact that, ultimately, this is an interesting location, but it's really not our jurisdiction. And as somebody who's worked on on marine projects before, there's an awful lot of regulations associated with putting stuff in the water near to shore and even further out. So just the timing might be an interesting thing to think about in terms of authority, jurisdiction, and also, when and where you can put stuff in the water. I did notice in the presentation that we received, there was mention of benefits to the community, and it was specifically mentioned about some income tax benefits and sales tax benefits. Those don't typically come to us. So if I could, I'd like to ask, beyond the fun aspect and beyond, bringing a few tourists in, what really could we expect in terms of benefit to the municipality? And I don't expect you to, be real specific about, lease arrangements and that sort of thing, but you're asking for us to consider something that would be present on the waterfront from June until Labor Day that would take up a lot of space. And on top of that, it was about a ticketing kiosk on shore. And then on top of that, there was even a request related to some storage. What could we expect in terms of and you also mentioned about, there was going to be a need for some accessibility things. And it was, the way that I read it was that there would be an expectation we would contribute towards making those things possible. And, I understand you would have your own insurance, but we would have to have insurance too. So if you could just help me understand beyond the fun, which I get, and beyond the idea of perhaps this will attract some tourists, be an option. Ultimately, what else would be in this for the community that would provide some benefits, perhaps beyond those two areas? Because it's a big ask. It's a very popular beach area, big amount of space, and some space on shore too for basically 3 months. So I just, if you could kind of inform us, I guess, without being specific, I guess, about dollar amounts, like what would be in it for us in terms of other possibilities for benefits? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because after we installed many of this park in all the area and across the Canada, I think Mr. Colodi can answer the question in detail based on the contract, all of the each cities such as the Barrie and Aurelia. Is it okay to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's very difficult to, besides the broad fact that this obviously you mentioned like brings in tourism and it's good for the community and it gets kids involved and it gets families involved. But I mean, even higher than that, like I've owned and operated parks in Montreal. I'm from Montreal, and obviously there is some considerations, the foot space that it takes and things like that, but it really does bring families together. And it sounds very cliche, but it's very true. Like there's a very big upbringing of families that come together and that travel long distances to come to these type of aqua parks, and the memories that are created, again, not to sound cliche, but the memories are created are by far something that you never forget. And I think the experience in Barrie kind of represents that. In terms of, we do fully understand that it can seem very cumbersome in terms of the ask from the municipality. But just to be clear, like the park itself is actually quite far away from the shore, so it's not in the way really of people on the beach. Like it's actually have to swim out probably like 50 or 60 meters in order to get out there, all depending on the water depth levels, and we'd have to verify that. In terms of foot space on the beach, we're looking at about a 10 by 20 foot kiosk. And then from there, like, you know, we're talking about like, you know, accessibility. These are all things that can be negotiated with the city. It's a case by case thing. There's no standard, there's no preset request. Like it is a really case by case setup. So in terms really of what the benefits are for the city, well, a lot of tourism that comes in from the city. There's a lot, like I've seen a lot of demand from anywhere from Wasaga Beach down to Grand Bend. People will make their way out here. People travel extensively for these type of aqua parks. They hear about them, they see it on social media. They travel very, very far in order to make their way out here. So in terms of the economic impact for the municipality, it will definitely be felt. And again, to a relatively, it sounds, you look at the video here and it's very, like, obviously the park that's there is like a massive park. It'd probably be like half of that, but it really is, according to me anyway, not that big considering an impact, considering the positive benefits will be for the municipality.
Okay, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
You just mentioned about, you know, the potential for it to be in at least 8 feet of water and then people having to swim out to get to that. That in some ways would limit participation. Is the intention to have some kind of inflatable way for, yeah, shuttle, thank you, shuttle to get out there as well? Because, you know, it's, that's a tough swim for some people who would just want to, you know, enjoy some time on a play surface. So is that part of the mix too?
It's definitely part of the mix. I'll be honest, if people can't swim that distance, more than likely, I'll really blunt, really honest, more than likely they won't have fun in the park itself. Like you definitely have to have swimming skills and swimming abilities in order to get on this structure. By experience, I would have lifeguards that would notice someone who did not know how to swim. Everyone has their life jackets, obviously. But, you know, people went out, they're like, you know what, maybe you want to come back, get reimbursed because this is not going to work out. Like you're not good enough swimmer to get to the park itself. So you're looking at about, on average, about, you know, 40 to 50 meters of swimming with a life jacket. And you also have two ropes that guide you out there. So people sometimes will pull themselves out. So it's not overly too hard for, I'd say, 95% of the people, but some people will find it too difficult and will have to come back. So there's, I mean, there could be ultimately a raft, but by experience, a lot of people just swim out there with their life jackets.
Sometimes I saw that people using tubing to go there.
Yeah, well, I don't think we want to get that one.
Deputy Mayor.
Just one final comment. Should this reach the level of a staff report, I would respectfully request that, and I'm sure it would include, but very specific information about the municipality's liability issues and also our ability to address emergencies on the water, which is a topic, much bigger topic, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Just to follow up on the issue of swimming out there, and do you have some kind of vetting process when you're selling tickets? Like, do you say you can't buy these if can't go out if you're under this height or age restriction? And how do you determine what somebody's physical ability to use this safely is?
Thank you. That's a very good question. First and foremost, it's very important to mention that we work hand in hand with the Life Saving Society of Ontario that have a aquapark safety standard for Ontario. So there's a list of recommendations that is accessible right now on internet. So a list of equipment, terms of ratios, terms of user height, user age. So there is an age requirement. There's also a height requirement as well to make sure that the kids are on it 6 and over. In terms of the swimmer's ability, people all have their life jackets. It's a very safe activity in itself. It really is a question of, is the person comfortable in the water environment? Like, we'll see it right away. People who are not comfortable, like, they'll start panicking. Lifeguard will basically tell them, come back, reimburse, you know, maybe sign up for some lessons. But it's a pretty rare thing, I'd say, on average.
Sorry, one more question. There was something like this up at Sauble Beach maybe a couple of years ago. Was that affiliated with you?
I've never seen it. Actually, there was a project that we were going to get involved, but the supplier, German manufacturer, refused to do it on Sauble because it was sandbars. It was very shallow waters, and it was just a completely wild environment. So the supplier in Germany decided that we're not going to get involved in it. So I don't even know if there's a project that actually went through. If it did, more than likely, I would have been blown away by the wind. That would be my.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there further questions from members? I noticed in your presentation, under financial considerations, you say you're open to various funding models, including public-private partnerships, sponsorship opportunities. You talk about concession stands, equipment rentals. I just wonder on the business model piece, I'm interested why that's in there. Are you asking the municipality to participate in this financially, or are you expecting that in addition to the park itself, that in order to make it financially feasible, that things like concession stands and equipment rentals will be necessary?
No, in the financially, as investing purposes, no, we are covering all of the financial purposes for this kind of the park. For information, this park is roughly about 200 and 250 initial cost for the setuping for the first year. And for the ticketing and using the beach facility, we are flexible to negotiate with the city, with the town.
I may also add, I think the way that it's worded there, I think what we tried to say is we're open to work with partnerships with other companies that want to do rentals of SUPs or food stands. It's more of an openness to participate with the city rather than us bearing. We're really the aqua park.
Okay, that's good to know. I think, and so as I said, we'll refer this matter to our staff. They'll come back and give us will give us a staff report and some recommendations. One thing I think was really important to address in there is what was raised by the deputy mayor about the question of jurisdiction. You step foot in the water, you're no longer in the town of Saugeen Shores. That's federal jurisdiction, and we're keen not to pick up that jurisdiction, honestly. So I think that's a really important question to answer. Whatever's happening on the beach, we have some control over, but if it's happening in the water, not so much. So that piece for me is important. But anyway, it's just to say it's cool looking. It looks like a lot of fun, and I hear that it's by the sounds of things, lots of people enjoy it in your installations across our country and beyond. So we appreciate you coming in and telling us about it. And as I say, we'll refer it to staff and we'll talk about it again. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
We appreciate the extra time that you guys allocated to us.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our delegations. Now we're on to item 8, report of municipal officers and committees. And 8.2.1, the Energy Conservation and Demand Management Plan. And the CFO has that presentation. There he is. He's online. Take it away, Dan.
Thank you, Mayor Charbonneau. The town's 2024 business plan included a legislatively required update to its energy conservation and demand management plan as a finance division highlight. Earlier this year, the town engaged Treehouse Energy Services to work with town staff from several different departments to create an updated plan. Treehouse Energy Services writes roadmaps for decarbonization in both the public and private sectors and does work for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. The town's draft energy plan and the consultant's presentation are both included as attachments to the report. It is being presented for information at this time to gain council feedback, and the plan itself will be formally approved at a future council meeting. Shun Liang from Treehouse Energy Services is joining us virtually to present. He is a professional engineer and the founder of Treehouse Energy Services, and I want to thank him for his work throughout the project. And with that, I will pass it over.
Oh, good evening. Can everyone hear me? Great. So, yes, thank you, Daniel, for the introduction, and it was a pleasure working with you and staff, collaborating with staff on this conservation and demand management plan for energy. So, I will start with kind of an overview of what we are going to cover, and I have about 12 slides. So if you can see the slides advancing, yeah, as Daniel mentioned, I am an independent consultant, and the name of the consultancy is Treehouse Energy Services.
Are you sharing are you trying to share your slides there now?
Oh,
'Cause we
yes,
don't-
is it not? Sorry, let me try that again. My
Sure, yeah,
apologies.
we don't see them, so yeah, give it another try.
Okay.
There you go. We got it now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that prompt. Yeah, so just an overview of the deck, and maybe I'll just start back at the beginning. This is, and then, so an overview of the deck. There's about 12 slides, and you know, what we'll kind of get into is the regulatory background of this plan. Why it's required. Some of the projects that have been completed to date by Saugeen Shores, goals and objectives of the conservation and demand management plan. We'll talk about how the baseline was established for energy use. A baseline year was established. We'll talk about some of the renewable energy generation going on in Saugeen Shores, and forward-looking conservation measures for energy, and a discussion on next steps with some Q&A, and an energy target about that'll be in the Q&A. So just building upon some of the information that Daniel gave about Treehouse, we specifically work in decarbonization for the building energy sector, and he mentioned that I worked in the private sector as well as the public, and our practice is based on getting buildings to net zero emissions. One of the core services that we offer is helping municipalities and other organizations access funding. So you can see our services there. We have net zero strategies, program management, integrated and custom studies, project management, and ancillary services such as doing a whole building computer simulation to be able to forecast your energy use for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And as I mentioned before, funding is very key to some of these turnkey studies that we do, because, and to be very honest, getting to net zero, even for a study can be costly. And so, but the good news is there is funding available for these zero studies. So in terms of the regulatory background, the regulation in Ontario has changed. It used to be Regulation 50718, and it's been sort of renumbered to 25/23, with the major change being the software platform that the energy data, your gas, electricity, propane, etc., where all that data is housed. So there is a program called Portfolio Manager, which is by Energy Star. You may have seen kind of the Energy Star ratings on your appliances, and it is the same company. They've created a software platform that's web-based that the Ontario government has adopted to house the public sector energy data. So, and there's a hyperlink to that there in the presentation. Well, just one more thing to add, the regulation requires the energy plan to be updated every 5 years. And it also requires annual reporting of energy data. So this is the year of the fifth, I guess the fifth year of the update. So to date, Saugeen Shores, through their asset management program and has completed the following upgrades, which also had a very positive energy impact. So lighting upgrades at various facilities that you see there. A key one in terms of energy use is refrigeration retrofits. Apologies for the typo. I see there needs to be another I in the retrofits. Yeah, these rink refrigeration is quite energy intensive, so that's been completed, and also some heating and cooling upgrades in a public workshop. So one of the mantras of energy management that you may have heard, and it certainly applies to to other aspects of municipal operations, is continuous improvement. So the first the first task in any sort of energy management plan is setting a reduction target, and one that's realistic and economical. And that target is through looking at energy efficiency, conservation, and of course cost recovery. We can use those three factors to decide what the target would be in the Saugeen Shores context. So your baseline energy and emissions year was selected as the first year in the 5-year plan. So that would be 2019, and that's generally the way that we work. We also baseline your energy use by the most current year as well. So that was also done, and so that's what this graph shows. Or these visualizations show that for 2023, the energy consumption of your municipal buildings, either owned or operated by the municipality or both, they constitute, or they're equivalent to 141 homes in terms of energy use. And then on an emissions front, they're equivalent to 77 and a half approximately tons of equivalent tons of CO2. Sorry, they're equivalent to 77 and a half homes in terms of emissions. And in terms of the breakdown between your natural gas and propane, you're using about 35% natural gas and 65% electricity as a percentage of your total energy use. Which is comparable to other municipalities that I've worked with. I've done 8 other energy plans this year in the Ontario area, and it's generally a 40 to 60, or 45 to 55 split in terms of gas to electricity. For emissions reductions, as you may know, there's now a focus on getting to net zero. So reducing gas use is very key. In Ontario, we're fortunate because our electricity grid is fairly clean with nuclear and hydro in terms of less emissions. So one of the things that we uncovered during the writing of this plan is there is a renewable energy installation in Saugeen Shores at the Chantry Senior Center. It's basically for those who may not be familiar with earth energy and using earth energy to heat and cool a facility. It's basically a series of piping loops and a heating and cooling machinery that takes, you know, the heating or the heating, extracts the heating from the loops. And then, you know, with a bit of a help from a compressor, enables it to heat and cool the building. And then in the summer season, that whole process is reduced. We reject heat into this piping loop to cool the building. So historically, as you've seen on this slide, this energy saved hasn't been tracked, but maybe there's we could track this in the future, you know, just because, as I understand it, the operations of this building isn't controlled by Saugeen Shores. Using some software and engineering judgment, I was able to calculate that this current installation is able to save between 14 and 16 kilowatts per year in terms of energy demand. So that's based on the information available. So in terms of future conservation measures, as I mentioned before, one of the recommendations coming out is you know, getting to net zero requires, you know, a third party source of funding. So and maybe a cost benefit study to look at what we can do, you know, to build on the success of what you have at the Chantry Senior Center, because getting to net zero does require a form or some form of renewable energy. Energy efficiency is not sufficient to achieve net zero. And then in terms of some upgrades that align with your asset management plan, we're working with some of the facility managers that, you know, we're looking at upgrades to, you know, the community complex, Southampton Coliseum, the police station, and Port Elgin Library. So that would fall under mostly heating and cooling upgrades. And that would be, you know, planned, something that you've already planned. So no additional funds would be needed for that. Regarding the energy target I mentioned earlier, municipalities that I've worked with generally set targets between 5 and 10%. Some of the municipalities I've worked with, depending on how well resourced they are, they may go a little lower than that. But generally, I've been seeing 5 to 10% in terms of reductions, and that's over 5 years. So it's not something that you need to do in 1 year. You know, there is time to kind of integrate that into your asset management plan. The Federation of Municipalities, Canadian Municipalities, does provide funding for retrofits. And the current requirements are that the facility needs to be owned by a municipality or a nonprofit. And net zero needs to be achieved in 20 years. And in 10 years, a 50% reduction in emissions needs to be achieved in order to be eligible for this funding. So yeah, and so that's the gist of the plan that was written over the last few months. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. There's a recommendation. I'll read it, then we can take questions or comments. It's recommended that council receive the Energy Conservation and Demand Management Plan report for information. Questions or comments? The Deputy Mayor, we'll work our way down.
Thank you, and through you, just a comment first before a question. In the actual plan that was attached to the agenda, it was good to see mention of the potential for solar panels with the Aquatics and Wellness Center, and I just want to channel my Councillor Halpin headspace here to if we keep talking about it, it's going to manifest itself one of these days. And I'm glad to see it in the plan. I would also like to just comment with solar panels. I was surprised that the roof of the Southampton Town Hall isn't mentioned, has potential. It to the best of my directional abilities, I think one side of the roof faces southeast and would grab a great deal of sun in it. The slope there is there's not a lot of snow that stays up there. My question though, and I don't know if this is something Mr. Liang, the consultant, can answer, or if it's just a question for future reference. It was kind of surprising to see that with all of the activity and efforts and expense or investment over quite a few years, going back in terms of doing things that we thought would help us with energy use. It was kind of surprising to see that the electricity use was up by 16.3% over the last 5 years. And I don't know, that just seems odd to me with all of the other things that have been done with, changing lights and, doing this, doing that. So is there anything that's kind of driving that big increase over that period of time, given all the other good things that have been going into the mix to help us reduce our energy use? I don't know if it's a question anybody can answer. I just found that statistic a little bit surprising.
Well, we can put it to our consultant and to the treasurer, see what they have to say.
So yes, thank you for your comments. And yeah, it's a good question. And one of the large drivers is the arenas and the community centers. So the more you kind of use them and have longer hours, especially with the refrigerations and the rink, those really drive the electricity use for your overall portfolio.
Okay, Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Daniel and Chun, for your presentations. Just a couple of questions. The Chantry Senior Center and the geothermal energy system that's used there, that you calculated, I know you said that you didn't have really specific tracking, but you've calculated that the savings are between 15 and 16 kilowatts.
Mhm.
How would that compare, just in terms of perspective, for somebody like me who doesn't really understand the significance of that? How does that compare to another facility of similar size, or is that good, or is that something we should be concerned about?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So and your house, a single family home would use between 3 and 4 kilowatts. So so if you take that and divide it into the 16 at peak, and that's with let's say you're using the single family home again, that's using your dryer, all your electrical appliances are on, because it's the worst case scenario in terms of peak demand. So that's a peak that it reduces.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the one of the facilities that contributes significantly to our energy use is the police station. Do you mean the new police station, or do you mean the building, the old police station?
Yeah,
The building that we're in now?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember which one it was.
Well, the reason I ask,
Yeah.
if I can interrupt, is that in one part of the report, you talk about the fact that one of the good things we have is energy recovery by using waste heat from the ice plant compressors for in-floor heating in the arena and the police station.
Yeah.
So when I read that, I thought, okay, we able to transfer heat to the new police station, or maybe we are, I don't know.
Yeah,
like
so yeah, that would be in the new building, if because it would be an adjacent building, or sorry, the same building.
In
So if you
in
were
this
to
building,
redo
yeah. So
Yeah.
it is this building, the
Yeah.
adjacent building.
Yeah.
So old police station.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the Director of Community Services has a comment?
Sure, and through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe just to clarify, is that this building that we're in now is the former police station, the NII building, and it is tied into our refrigeration and glycol system, geothermal system at the Plex Arena.
Fantastic, okay.
Yeah.
So just to go back then, sorry about that. So the new police station is one of our highest users of energy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
that's correct. And I'll just comment, some of the benchmarking, so going back to 2019 would have been, I believe, the first year of operations of the new station. So maybe plays in terms of the benchmarking and the naming conventions as we're looking at data from previous reporting or the previous plan, the naming conventions have changed or the uses of the buildings have changed.
Yeah, and thanks for reminding Daniel of that. We did go through a bit of a exercise, a renaming exercise, because it had been 5 years since the names were updated in that web-based platform that I mentioned earlier.
Sure. I just have a couple of comments, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. This was a really comprehensive report. I've looked at some of the previous reports on our work through the several different environmental sustainability ad hoc committees. And I really appreciate the detail in this report and the action items for the future. And I know that your group, your company works with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. One of our recommendations actually from both committees in 2022 and 2024 was for the municipality to join the Partners for Climate Protection through ICLEI, which is affiliated with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And one of the recommendations there is that our recommendation is partially based on the fact that having a climate adaptation plan in particular seems to be one of the key prerequisites that these various green grants, they're looking for that.
Yeah.
And so to me, the material that you've included in this report is going to be kind of a jump start for us to get going on that work. And so I appreciate that, and I hope that staff will fairly soon consider our recommendations to join the Partners for Climate Protection, because it's my understanding that they have a multitude of resources that can assist us also with that work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll get Councilor Davinsky and then Halpin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and through you. We're talking about buildings that have existed for a while. As you said, it was a 5-year plan and the 5th year has arrived. We are at the foundation, the groundwork of our new aquatic center and wellness center. And I think that the town has made great strides in trying to make that energy efficient. Have you, Chun, had an opportunity to look at the new development? And are we doing the right thing at the right time, or is it still too early to judge that?
So thank you for your question. That's a really good question, to be proactive and to do these things, at the pre-design stage. And then, and to answer your question, no, I haven't had the opportunity to do that. And even if you are in design development or, in pre-construction or construction, there's still some things that can be done.
If I may continue, Mr. Mayor, then I would bring that forward to Dan. What has there been any discussion about looking at this building, or are we leaving it alone only to find out that we should have started at the beginning while we had the chance?
If the Director of Community Services wants to speak to that, maybe.
Yep, she's on her way up here now. Director Schreider.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor Davinsky. Through our planning phase, pre-design, design, and now construction is that we have implemented energy efficient initiatives. Also, not just for the longevity of the building and future operation, but also to be eligible for some funding opportunities as well. So we're confident that we are making the right decisions, that we've designed the building accordingly, and we've also been able to establish a net zero ready transition plan for when and if funding comes available to us, that we'll be able to achieve that.
Well, that sounds very encouraging. Thank you very much, Kristen Schreider, and thank you, Dan and Chun, for your report too. Very enlightening indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I think it's good to have a report like this so people can see the actual amounts of electricity and you know, and gas that are used to run these municipalities. I salute the Aquatic and Wellness Center for the R values that they're putting in. I think a lot of people would be surprised, like a new school, or like if you build a house today, your ceiling has to be R50 and your walls have to be R28 or thereabouts. And if you build a new school or something like that, often the walls, instead of being R28, are like R7 or R10. And the roofs, instead of being R50, are like R20. So commercial buildings are really important for us to get a hold on the energy consumption. And I'm glad that we're putting the insulation in, and insulation is the best money that you can spend on any project. And it's so much more difficult to put in after. We owe a debt of gratitude to those before us that had the foresight to put geothermal in here and geothermal in Chantry, which I didn't even know that had. We have a debt of gratitude, and we're still saving money because of that. That's why it's so important that this council make that Aquatic and Wellness Center a net zero building so that people will say the same about us in the future. Okay? And you know, conservation, it's about saving energy, but man, it's about saving money. And who doesn't like to save money, right? Who would not want lower energy bills? So I think it's great that we're doing this. And I see, you know, we're sitting here in the Nuclear Innovation Institute, the green energy frontier, these different terms. And we should have a solar roof on this. You know, like we should be leaders in this. I'd really like us to see us be leaders in net zero. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments, Vice Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank you for the report. And as Councillor Grace has mentioned, it's very detailed and in depth. And it's good to see the 4.4% decrease in energy use and the target of 7% over the next 5 years. What's the desirable outcome year 5 to 10, 10 to 20? What are we trying to achieve?
I don't know if Shun has comments, but I would say that will be developed in future plans. And I think all staff, all departmental staff are working on long-term energy projects through different means. So through our 10-year capital plan, there's a number of energy initiatives in there. There's also in 2026, it's within the community services team. The facilities team there is looking at non-rec facilities, a study on energy strategies. So I think that's where maybe some of those longer term plans or goals may come out. Sorry, and I see the Director of Community Services.
Thanks, Dan. And I think I'll just also to offer for the Vice Deputy Mayor's question as well is that through our KPIs that we are tracking, I think it's 9 facilities, 9 of our core year-round high-use facilities, tracking the consumption data as well and reporting out. We've set an internal target for reduction 2% annually each year. So we'll see where we come out as well. But working again with the report here to set those targets. And also that I'll add, I appreciate Councillor Halpin's comments around the foresight, but a lot of it and over the next couple of years and through some of our studies that we'll be having is how staff operate those facilities. That's where we can also see a great deal of reduction in just our simple way and how we do things and maybe altering the way that we do things to find some efficiencies there.
Thank you. And Mr. Step in the right direction, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a good thing. Just a housekeeping item, Daniel, and to the consultant. And yeah, it's nitpicking, but I'm going to say it anyways. On page 5 and 19, Saugeen Shores total population of 15,908, 2021 includes the communities of Port Elgin and Southampton. And please add in, change the report and Saugeen Township. Did you change that?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, are there further comments?
Sorry, may I?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on, one of the councillors had mentioned the Partners for Climate Protection. And yeah, I just wanted to mention I'm actually working with a municipality in the Niagara region on their GHG inventory tool. And for those who don't know, that the Partners for Climate Protection inventory tool not only can inventory your building's emissions, but also transportation and indirect emissions from waste. And so it is a more comprehensive way of doing community emissions. And so I'm glad you mentioned that. It is a very good tool to use.
Very good, thank you. I just wonder, question for myself. So we're talking about the recommendation is a 7% reduction over the next 5 years. Do we know what that will cost?
Yeah, that's a great question. There, with construction costs being all over the map, it was very, challenging to try to get a handle on the cost of that. And it's something that I think, the asset management and especially community services is probably costing now. There are some costs in the appendices at the end of the plan. So if you add those up, that'll probably give you a bit of a preliminary estimate.
Yeah, well, I looked at that. Yeah, and I just wondered if that was, so we have to do all of those things to achieve the 7%?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah.
So pretty expensive then, like it's an order of several $1 million, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's a very challenging to reduce energy use because you don't want to affect the operations and services to the community. So operational hours can't be reduced. And you want to maintain that level of service. But you also want to update the buildings with the most energy efficient technology. And sometimes that, comes at a higher cost, but those energy savings, will persist if you continue to maintain the equipment that the upgraded equipment that you've purchased.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see the business case.
Yeah.
Because, as Councillor Halpin points out, can be money saving unless it isn't, right? Because it could cost so much money to achieve, to do that you can't make it up because your buildings wear out before you achieve the savings. So, is conservation a good end in itself? Maybe, because the province is saying that they need us to use less electricity in order to produce less electricity. But also we can produce clean energy through nuclear power and other ways. And maybe conservation at any cost is not necessarily a good outcome. So I think I would like to see the costing of this as compared to the return, the ROI, I feel like, what these are investments that we're going to make in terms of capital infrastructure. We can say here that it saves money, but we don't really know. It would be nice to know for sure with some sort of business case. I'm all for it if it saves money. But if it's going to cost or even if it's break even, frankly, but if it starts to cost us an awful lot more money than we make back, then I think you have to have the discussion about whether it's really worth doing
Yeah.
or whether it
And
makes sense. So
sorry if
anyway,
can-
if you have comments to it, sure.
Yeah, sorry if I can just comment further. The approach, the strategy to offset these costs is to replace and upgrade the equipment as it comes to end of life. So really, what you and I agree, a deeper dive must be done in terms of looking at the incremental cost versus the energy savings.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying. I think you're
Yeah.
right. There's obviously going to be costs we're going to incur anyway. We just need to do the business case. Like, I'd like to see the actual investment, and then the return on investment. And so we can understand fully how the money we're spending is going to return positively for the taxpayer. So I think hopefully we'll do that work following up on this plan before we actually start implementing it. And I might ask the treasurer, how much of this is already in the 2025 through 2035 business plan?
It all comes from the business. It does all come directly from the business plan. So there are a number of energy initiatives within the 10-year capital plan. They do rely on significant grant funding that's also built into the business plan. So I think the director of community services and her team, as those items come up in the business plan, will most likely be looking at exactly that and seeing whether that funding becomes available for those upgrades and to do everything in the plan.
So it's fair to say there isn't a return on investment without significant funding from outside sources.
I can't comment on that, but I think I would leave that for the work to be done by the facility team as those projects approach.
Another way to put it is, though, we're probably not advancing many of these projects without significant grant funding. Yes?
Yeah, as the items come up in the business plan, there would be decisions would need to be made by council around those items.
Actually, the director.
Thank you, and through you, and maybe also to offer is that, as Dan had mentioned, is that those projects are identified based on our facility condition assessment, asset management plan as well. We try to build those budgets based on the information we have today. When we get closer to certain projects, especially equipment, refrigeration equipment, HVAC equipment, we look at what the possibilities are. Generally, it does cost a little bit of money to get more energy efficient equipment, but there's indirect and direct benefits that we get from doing that. So perhaps lowering our utility costs, but also if they allow our equipment to run smoother, then maybe we buy another year for the next replacement that's done. So we take all of those things into consideration when we build that plan and consider the benefits at that time.
Yeah, and it'd be good to see the analysis of that when that happens. So thank you for that. Councillor Halpin, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. You bring up a very good point about cost efficiency. And when I was involved in building homes, we built R2000 homes, and we used to like to say to clients, if you do this, it costs you this much, and the payback is over this many years. And some things worked well and some didn't. And there's a few things like they'd have windows with argon gas. And if you paid full price for that argon gas, it would take 12 years to pay it back, but the gas itself would only last 10 years. So therefore, if efficiency was your goal, that wasn't the best move. And so I believe that, there has to be a reasonable payback things, because you're right, there's no sense spending $1 million to save a couple $100,000, so that it has to fit in. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And it sounds like we're going to do that work. So thank you all for the presentation and for the work you've done on this. It's much appreciated. Council, you've heard the recommendation, so I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. All right, so on to 8.2.2, the final budget report for 2025 and the Director of Corporate Services. Turned off there.
Council heard from senior leadership over the past over 2 business planning sessions in November to arrive at this proposed business plan and budget. To begin with, I'll outline the key features of this plan. The plan introduces the first ever 10-year operating plan, enabling council to not just respond to growth, but to thoughtfully shape it to benefit our community. Council is increasing funding for municipal housing subsidies to help people find homes. The plan is prioritizing several environmental initiatives, including an examination of residential organic food waste collection. This plan will continue to make Saugeen Shores an attractive place to live in a welcoming environment for business. This is exemplified by our work on the Innovation Park. Strategic initiatives will be examining how the town manages our municipal healthcare services. And perhaps lastly and most excitingly, council will be opening the Aquatic and Wellness Center in 2025 with the mayor cannonballing into the pool. Still planned? Okay, absolutely. Since the November 27th meeting, when the blended tax rate increase was proposed to be 4.3%, we've been fortunate to receive two pieces of good news. Firstly, WSIB, or workers' compensation, for that we have received revised estimates, and that's allowing us to reduce our budgeted costs for that line item. We have also received final assessments from MPAC, and those are slightly improved over our previous estimated values. So that combined is reducing our blended tax levy to 4.1%. That represents approximately $15 a month on an average median assessed Saugeen Shores home. If we look at this excluding police and SVCA, the proposed increase for the town is a mere 2.2%. That's less than $4.50 a month on the average home. And this increase will fund resources to maintain service levels for operation, as well as keep the town in a healthy financial position. Additional to the increase I've just discussed, we have the Future Infrastructure Special Levy, and it will add approximately $4 a month to the average home, which will ensure that the town can make the necessary investments in our infrastructure. This increase is consistent with the increase that was planned for 2025 in the 2024 business plan. This was accomplished despite the significant losses in OSIP funding by selectively adjusting capital spending in areas that will least impact residents. This includes improved estimates on the Port Elgin Fire Station and deferral of renovations to the Southampton Medical Clinic, the Centralized Operation Depot, and the Lamont Sports Park Canteen. I just want to point out that on the first recommendation in the report, we just need to adjust the dollars slightly to match what is in Schedule 1. So the operating budget is just $10,000 less than what you see in the report. So it's $707 or $707,000. And the capital expense is $10,315,000, which is $3,000 less than you see in the report. The net impact is that the reserves would be $7,000 less than what is in the report to match what's in Schedule 1, and that is $1,392,000. Also before you for resolutions is what I guess I would call a new resolution, which is flowing from what you heard in the open forum today. And that is that council consider directing staff to include $30,000 for the SSTC and Pumpkin Fest, which is one-time funded out of tax stabilization reserve, is what we have in this recommendation. And hence there wouldn't be any impact on the tax rates that I discussed previously. The next steps following this meeting today will be that council would pass the necessary bylaws to implement the 2025 business plan and budget at our next meeting on January the 6th. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, well, we maybe have some questions first. Before I read the resolution, maybe I'll take any questions or comments and then we'll go to it. So why don't we get Councillor Halpin first?
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest on discussions around the SSTC and Pumpkin Fest, as I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Saugeen Sparks Training Center.
Councillor Mayette?
What he said.
Okay. All right. So what we will do to handle that is we will have a focused discussion about that item, the $30,000 funding. Council will make a decision on that item and then, so that these two gentlemen can not be part of that discussion, and then we'll consider the main motion. So why don't we do that now? We'll discuss a resolution that council directs staff to include $30,000 towards SSTC/Pumpkin Fest as one-time funding from the tax stabilization reserve. So questions or comments to that resolution or recommendation, the deputy mayor?
Do you need one of us to make that motion?
We're in committee of the whole, so I don't think it's necessary
Okay.
to have a mover and seconder. So that's, is there comments or questions to that item? I don't see any. I guess I would just make a comment. I support the Sparks Training Center and Pumpkin Fest, and will support this funding for this year. But I just want to make the note that I think it's not sustainable for the municipality on an ongoing basis to continue to provide operating funding towards a facility for these organizations. So I would like us to direct staff in sort of a similar manner that we did with the Arts Society, to go back and discuss with these groups alternative arrangements. We have other facilities that we own where maybe we could accommodate them, or maybe there are other in-kind things we can do or other arrangements we can help them with. We're keen to help them, I know, but we should direct our staff to, I think, to go and tell them, the municipality, these can't continue to make these kinds of one-time funding. We need a more sustainable arrangement. So that would be my thought, is if we could direct staff to further discussions with them on a more sustainable path forward. Is there any comments, Vice Deputy Mayor?
Just, I support what you're saying, but I also am very supportive of the work that Spark Training Center is doing. And of course, Pumpkin Fest, what can we say, right, about the great work they do in our community? And so I support that $30,000 this year for sure, but I understand your thoughts.
Yeah, and that's certainly my view as well. We should support the 30,000 this year, but give some direction. Okay, so I said thank you. So if there's no further comments on this, then we will ask all in favor of council directing staff to include $30,000 toward SSTC and Pumpkin Fest as one-time funding from the tax stabilization reserve, and that staff be directed to enter into discussions with those groups on a more permanent, sustainable arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so we'll bring back our colleagues and we will discuss the rest of the resolution. We lose Councillor Hilbin? All right, well, we'll carry on. Hopefully, here he comes. We'll just give him a sec to get here. Okay, so questions or comments on the other elements of this recommendation, the Deputy Mayor and then the Vice Deputy Mayor?
Two questions and then something I would just like clarified. Because there's the increases to the fees and charges included in this, they would take effect starting in January. Okay, I got a nod on that just as an answer. The other question that I had is really more of a comment too, but I would just like to ask respectfully again that since we're including some items don't appear in the budget as expenses because they're showing up in different ways as debt financed via the legacy fund associated with the Aquatics and Wellness Center construction and staffing and that operation. I do think it would be to be more transparent, to have everybody's tax bill show that they're contributing to the legacy fund. It is a set amount from each tax bill, I believe, and also the special levy, the infrastructure levy. I think, it would benefit from more people understanding just how it is being assisted by their own, tax bill situation. So I would respectfully ask again that in preparing tax bills, we consider including those two items on the tax bills as very specific items so people know what the impact is to them. I've asked that before. My question, though, is on page 4 of the report, so you might want to step back. You use the expression that the paragraph reads, the use of reserves and debt allows the, and I just would like you to explain, it says allows the measured, dedicated future infrastructure special levy to grow. Can you just clarify or maybe say in a different way, measured, dedicated future infrastructure special levy? I'm just like, can you define what that is? Because there's a lot of words in that one specific item. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor, for that question. With last year's business plan, the plan was that the special levy would start with an average home at $49 and would increase by $49 a year up through 2032. And that is what I'm referring to as the measured increases. In the old way of budgeting, probably what we would have done is we would have come forward and said, we need a huge increase right now in 2024 in order to fund this, the infrastructure deficit. But what we're doing instead, what council planned on doing is having these measured increases of $49 a year over the window of the business plan in order to get the funding level up to what is sustainable to keep our infrastructure in good working order.
Thank you. I think that the more we talk about that particular decision, it does show good foresight, I think, into preparing for the future and planning for the future. It's sometimes, though, it'll get lost in the shuffle. So I just think it's important that whenever possible, people understand that, you know, you're being asked to help ensure the sustainability and success in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to start off by commenting to you, Jim, and to Daniel and all staff, really. The 10-year operations plan, I think, was a really good positive step this year. First, I had a little bit of trouble getting my head around it, but it turned out really, really well, and I thought staff did a great job presenting it. So thank you for all the great work to all staff. Jim, on Schedule 2, this is a nitpicking. It's a simple answer, I'm sure. I have a few other questions too, but Schedule 2, 2025 business plan, on page 12 of 18. There's a line under there, and it talks about an item, and it says blank. What does blank mean on that line on page 12 of 18?
The blank is referring to a line item that we didn't have coded correctly to one of the accounts. And off the top of my head right now, I'm not positive what that is, but I can investigate and include that in a.
It's under engineering. It's under expense. It's $150,000 expense, and it just says blank. I just don't know what the $150,000 was for.
And as I said, it's something that we didn't code to a appropriate account, and so it didn't come into the report properly. So I'll investigate it. We'll get it coded to the correct account, and then we'll report back in one of the Friday updates.
It's a simple item, but I just spotted it. The
CAO, you want to make a comment on CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to offer that if you look across that line under council highlights, the 150 is sitting there. I believe that's the funding for the CPPS, would be my guess. But as Jim said, we'll make that updating, that correction.
Okay. Thank you for that. And one of the suggestions I'd made when we were annualizing the tourist camp and harbor manager was, you know, that the taxpayer shouldn't have to come up with a $50K. And I see where you've included new revenues in there. Does that include a $150 increase to the tourist camp site rentals? Was that built in?
Increases to tourist camp, tourist camp and harbor.
It's one of the recommendations I made, and they seem to be supported by council, the $150 per site increase. That was built in. Yeah. At the Lamont Sports Park, there's a $250,000 expense for the pavilion I picked up on. And I said it at the last meeting, I'll say it again, but there's $225,000 by the Bruce Power suppliers. And then there's another $50,000, Jim, was donated by Barry's Construction. for 2025 for the pavilion that took it to 275. And I see in the budget it's 250. So could that be corrected to 275? Because there was actually $275,000 donated for the Lamont Sports Park Pavilion, 275, and I see it's 250. So that should be corrected.
Dan, are you still online there?
Yep. So I would ask, is the donation that you're referring to an in-kind donation or a
No, it's a cash
monetary donation?
No, it's a cash donation pledge, but $225,000 by the Suppliers Network and $50,000 from various construction. So it's $275,000 that was donated specifically for the pavilion, and
So-
250 shows up in the budget.
All donations are recorded as revenue towards the Lamont Sports Park Phase 2 project, and we can perhaps do some house cleaning to show it directly against that specific project.
I want to make sure there's enough funds in that fund to build the pavilion. So it should be 275 there. Jim, I'm just wondering, the tax stabilization reserve, we show a $3.9 million deficit in 2029, or 6.9 million by 2033, and $3.9 million deficit 2029. And then the future capital deficit, 6.5 million. So by 2029, we're looking at a $10-11 million deficit in future capital and in tax stabilization reserve. And then by 2033, we come into a surplus position again. This council has really been used to seeing surpluses in the tax stabilization reserve over the years. Does that concern you at all? Should it concern us?
I'm going to say it should not concern you. Back to the question that the deputy mayor asked, and looking at the report itself, and the chart on page 4, the reserve chart, you can see there where by 2027 we hit a low in our non-obligatory reserve. So that's the tax stabilization and the future capital reserve, and we're hitting a low there of $3 million. And then you can see how it ramps back up. And the reason that is happening is because council is using reserves to fund the capital program in the short term, while the future infrastructure special levy ramps up to the appropriate level by 2032.
So it catches up, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. The legacy reserve shows $6.6 million balance by 2033, I think it is. Yep, 6 million by 2033. Just explain again, we're putting in from tax levy, it's built into the budget every year, $2.3 million a year, I think we put into the legacy reserve. So over 20 years, in fact, it should grow up to 20 million, but we're using that funding, correct? To help pay for the wellness center.
Yeah.
So the balance of 6-point-something million, does it, what happens to that fund with 2.3 million going in there every year? What happens beyond 2033 with that fund?
Well, that might be a question for future councils, and
Depending on capital
well,
expenditures?
depending on what they choose to do with future projects, right? So whatever, I am sure that councils 10 years from now will find projects that they can invest that money in, because obviously it doesn't make sense for that money isn't there to grow indefinitely. It's there to serve the community.
I just was kind of not understanding why the $6 million balance, when we're using those funds to help pay for the wellness center. I was expecting it to actually be lower than that amount, but I guess I'm not quite understanding, how it, I just looking how it's growing, and then I'm just trying to find here the legacy. Here it is, 7 million to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, right? So.
And those were the decisions that were made previously of how much of the pool was coming out of legacy versus how much is coming through debt funding.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll just add on specifically through development charges funding. So there is the fixed transfer, the transfer that's set to go into legacy fund every year is just over $2.4 million. And the debt on the aquatic and wellness facility is not projected to use that entire amount. And so there is a surplus between our debt payments from the legacy reserve and the fixed transfer of just over 2.4 million. And that's the discrepancy that's showing that reserve fund growing at given the information we have now.
Okay, explains it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I have Councillor Davinsky.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And through you, it's a housekeeping item, much the same as the Vice Deputy Mayor had. He found one that said blank. I too have found one that says blank, not near as much. It's only $20,000. And it's on page, I believe, 16 of the, 16 of the report. And once again, a blank comes up under expense. As I say, it's $20,000. Perhaps that can be cleared up as well, because someone will find it sooner or later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it looks like staff will look into that. Councillor Halpin.
Just a couple of comments. Thank you, Mayor, and through you, just a couple of comments is, one is I like the budget process this year. I like the way it was presented and everything like that. I gotta admit, I kind of like using the Azure thing. I always hate it, say, why are we doing this? Why are they always changing everything? But I found I didn't really need a paper copy doing it this time, and I was able to work through it. And I think that 2.2%, or is it 2.2 or 2.1? 2.2, I think you said, that the actual increase is less the police services and less Saugeen Valley is a job well done. Thank you. And we have to walk that fine line between the demand for more services and the constituents that I find that constantly ask, why do you guys just raise taxes all the time? You know, so we're walking that line and can be difficult. Just a quick comment on Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority with the increase that they had. In a way, it's a little bit of a cautionary tale because we kind of held their budget down for a couple of years, really kind of repressed their budget. And then it's, you know, as Councillor Davinsky likes to say, pay me now or pay me later, you know, and we just had to let them catch up. So I feel I can defend the increase that Saugeen Valley gave, and I can defend this budget. So thank you.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you, I would have the same confidence about the police service budget in terms of defending it. So thanks for your comments about the SVCA. I wanted to ask a question more for perhaps the benefit of anybody's watching who doesn't look at these documents all the time. The 90-page business plan is a really pretty document and takes some time to read, but every person in this town should actually take a scan through it, and some people would find it probably interesting to read the whole thing. I did want to ask though, when you're looking at it, it's sometimes hard to understand what is meant. And I don't know if, Jim, you're the right person to ask, but I'm looking right now at page 27 of the business plan, and it's recreation division highlights for 2025. And when you look at the chart that's there, you know, it's got some goals, and then there's some descriptions there of things that are happening. And then there's a column titled budget. And in some cases, there's a zero there. And in some ways, you know, just by thinking about it, it's like, oh, well, you know, staff are just going to do that. So there's not an extra expense. Maybe it's just built in. But in other ways, there's often a description that says funded by this or funded by a grant. But sometimes it's hard to understand what the zero means there. So for example, I'm looking at the line that reads 12-month ICE pilot program. and you get all the way across to that budget column, it says zero. And, it's pretty easy to understand that there's some expense associated with the pilot. How should somebody read that column, budget? Again, when there's something there, like further down, it says Centennial Pool decommissioning, it's got $50,000 in that column. In other cases, where there might be an expense, it says funded by grant, so then there's a zero there. When you're looking at this, what could that zero mean when there's nothing there defining, a dollar figure or, where it's being paid from, with the assumption that pretty much everything in here has some kind of cost?
So what this represents is the net budget ask as in terms of an increase over 2024. In the case of the 12-month ICE, there's revenue and there's costs. And so the net impact of that is $0, if that makes sense. In the case of the Centennial Pool decommissioning, there's costs there. There's no revenue to offset that. So the net impact is 50,000. There's occasions where you'll see where we, in the description, will include a cost, but there's zero cost in the budget column. And that's because it's something we do every year. It costs money. We're not asking for new money, incremental money. And that's why that budget column, the ask column is another way that we sometimes refer to it, has a zero in it because the staff is not asking for incremental money to do that work.
I just think that, and I know that the report is finished, but for future reference, maybe a little bit of definition for that column might be helpful to people who are looking at the document without the benefit of listening to you and being part of conversations that go on during budget meetings. I did also want to specifically mention that in the attachments that have individual budget numbers, where my colleagues have found the blank words, when you get to the end of most of the sections, where there's an indication of police is the last thing. And at the bottom of the police page, there's a grand total line that has unbelievably high numbers that at first I gasped because I thought, oh my gosh, but that's not the total just for police. That's for the whole collection of pages that came before that too, just in case anybody happens to be looking at the individual documents. And again, they're good reads, and I would encourage any member of the public who's so interested to take a good look at them. Again, the 90-page report is very pretty, and it will be on the website. If somebody needs a printed copy, are they able to request one? I'm getting nods from
Yes,
up here.
the answer is yes.
Thank you very much.
Are there further questions or comments from members? I'll just make a comment. I think it's shouldn't be understated the amount of work in creating these 10-year plans. We did the capital one last year, operating this time, and how unique that is. There are aren't very many municipalities out there, particularly our size, who are running 10-year budgets like this on the operating and capital side. And it requires, just a substantial amount more work to produce that. But what it enables us to do is today you can pick up that 90-page document and you can read through it and you can see all of the projects that are planned this year and in the coming 10 years. And you can know that the municipality has a financial plan to actually undertake those projects. Whereas in previous years before 2024, there would have been those projections were still in there, but there was no financial plan to back them up. They were just words on a page. And today they're much more than that. And so I think so the other thing too then is and it will be important for us year over year to tell the story of that clearly, because as councils change and as staff change, those deficits that we're going to run in the next few years will still be there. And people need to understand the breadth of that plan and what it's intending to do, and the idea of raising a capital levy slowly over time to mitigate tax levy impacts and use debt servicing and reserves to balance that and make sure we continue to build the municipality in the interim. That's a strategy. It will look bad on the books for a period of time, and then it will look much better later on. But we need to tell that story because we need this council and future councils to continue to execute it for it to succeed. And then when it reaches that sort of 2020, 2033, 2034 timeline, the town of Saugeen Shores is going to be extremely well positioned for the 10 years after that, 2035 through 2045, to build out its infrastructure in a way that almost no other municipality, certainly of our scale, will be able to do, because they won't have the money. They won't have built a plan to fill that infrastructure gap. We've been talking forever about an infrastructure gap, and we've been doing practically nothing about it for 40 years. We've known that exists. And so now we've done something about it. We're filling the infrastructure gap. We have an actual financial plan to fill it in. And in 10 years, this municipality will be in the black and have liquid cash to build what it wants going forward. So, we talked about planning for the future and the things that people look back on councils and administrations and thank them for. That'll be a thing there that people will thank you for, and it will take a bit of bravery for the next 7 or 8 years because the municipality will run reserve deficits, and it will borrow a fair bit of money. And councils are going to have to say to the public, hold on, it's going to be all right. And we have a plan, and we do. It isn't just pie in the sky. So, and frankly, I just want to conclude by saying that's because of you, Jim and Dan, honestly, right? I mean, you came here and you had that vision. And it was one of the first things you talked about when you took on the role of director, and you have executed it. And probably in a way that few other people could have done, honestly. There was one director, I won't name them, said that we should in the budget include $1 million insurance on your brain so that we can protect it for the future. Because I think, and Dan as well, you guys really are operating on a level that not many folks in your profession, at least in municipalities, are doing. So thank you for that work. It's a tremendous budget, and yeah, looking forward to passing it.
And if may also say all the directors and the managers and the work involved in putting this together, they all deserve a lot of credit.
Here, I'm a round of applause for them. Okay, so I will now read the recommendation. It's recommended that council approve the 2025 Town of Saugeen Shores business plan to include 2025 operating budget with net operating income of $11,707,244, 2025 just read that, yeah, $707,244 to 2025 capital expenses of $10,315,369, net of revenue, debt proceeds, and the increased special levy. 2025 proceeds from debt of $44,047,727, and 2025 debt-driven increase to reserves of $1,391,874. Further, that council increase the town of Saugeen Shores tax levy for 2025 to be set at $1,650,332 to a total of $24,494,116. The council increased the rate-based dedicated future infrastructure special levy by $512,558 to a total of $988,291. The council approved the BIA levies for 2025, set at $66,000 for the Port Elgin BIA and $58,700 for the Southampton BIA. The council passed the fees and charges bylaw establishing the 2025 fees and charges at the December 9, 2024 regular council meeting. And that council passed the tax levy bylaw establishing the 2025 tax rates at the January 6, 2025 council meeting. Questions or comments to the recommendation? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to 8.4, communications petitions for the committee of the whole. There are 7 items there. Anybody wish to discuss any of those? The deputy mayor?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on 8.4.1, which is minutes from a May meeting of the Airport Advisory Committee. In those minutes, and of course they reflect the past season more than the upcoming season, but very important that messaging get conveyed to that committee via whoever perhaps sits on there from council going forward, that all the other businessy type areas like the harbor, anything at the harbor and the trailer camps, all of their expenses or their fees are going up 4.3%. So that would be important for the airport advisory committee to take into account that there has been sort of a standardization across fees and charges for the community. I did want to, though, specifically mention that I believe we should support 8.4.5, which relates to the province, the City of Toronto request to the province to better support family physicians. I think that that's something we have in common with the big city, and a resolution that's worthy of us jumping on board to suggest to the province that family physicians are not compensated appropriately given the volume of paperwork that they're required to do, which in fact, in many ways lessens the amount of time that they have for patient access to them. So I would recommend supporting that particular one, 8.4.5.
Okay, the deputy mayor moves support of the City of Toronto resolution requesting the province to support family physicians. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Grace. Any discussion of the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. And the deputy mayor?
I don't know how or if it would even apply to us, but 8.4.3, which is a Ministry of Natural Resources letter talking about the commercial scale geologic carbon storage projects. And I did go in and try and get a little better understanding from some of the links that were there, and it was very confusing to me. But I didn't know if this had any potential for our community. Going back to many years ago when the NWMO was taking a good look at Saugeen Shores as a potential site for the deep geological repository, the DGR. We heard at the time that the geology here was pretty good for something like that. The geography wasn't so great that we didn't have a lot of space above ground to deal with something like that. And in fact, we benefited a little bit from the process because it's now helping us fund some donations to the hospital and that kind of thing with the contribution they gave us at the time. But this particular letter is referencing some opportunities going forward to have some other types of underground installations. And I didn't know if it was something anybody here had on their radar because the geology here was enabling something else. And I couldn't find out, just what the parameters were for how much land they needed or that kind of thing, or even how it would work. But I just thought, it kind of fits into our whole clean energy frontier kind of model and just climate change related and that kind of thing. So I don't necessarily think we need to support anything. I just thought it was an interesting letter for a potential future consideration, whether or not this would mean anything for us in an economic sense. Thank you.
And just to be clear, the letter in question from the Ministry of Natural Resources is referencing a posting on the Environmental Registry of Ontario with regard to creating a framework for geologic carbon storage facilities in the future. And so we could ask our staff to have a look at the posting and see if they believe there's any value in the town of Saugeen Shores commenting on it. If you'd like, I don't know, does the CAO have any comments on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, staff reviewed the correspondence when it came in. We don't really have staff working in this area that we felt confident could review the environmental registry. But if council would like to direct, we can take a closer look at it.
Well, that's fair enough. I don't know, the deputy mayor.
I don't know if we have to take a closer look now, but just if anybody hears anything going forward, because we had geology here that was good for some underground stuff.
Yeah.
So there might be an opportunity here in the future. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Further comments then on any of the other items of correspondence, communications? I don't see any, so we'll move on past that then, and we'll have a quick round then of statements by members. The deputy mayor.
Oh, I figured we were going to jump over this. I didn't write anything down. I guess I'll just highlight that I very much enjoyed participating in the Santa Claus Parade on Friday night with Councillor Grace and the mayor. And I'll leave it at that for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. The vice deputy mayor.
I know you've been thanked and congratulated earlier in the meeting, Mr. Mayor, but I did make it down last Thursday to when you were sworn in as our new warden and for Bruce County. And I just again wanted to say congratulations, and it was it's really quite an honor, eh, for you to be serving as Bruce County Warden for the next year. So again, congratulations.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you taking the time to come down. Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of quick items. I just wanted to express my appreciation to the Chamber of Commerce, Saugeen Shores Rotary, and everyone who participated in our Santa Claus parades. And a special shout out to our first responders who are on duty and even handing out candy. The weather was horrible on both nights and they were great successes. Huge turnout, and so thank you for all that effort. I also wanted to mention that yesterday and tonight, actually, the Chantry Singers and Southampton Concert Band are doing their annual Christmas concerts. And next Sunday on the 15th at the Southampton United Church, there's the annual Lessons and Carols, which is a very moving Christmas carol, non-denominational service, and the proceeds all go to local women's shelters. And finally, thanks to CFUW Southport for organizing the December 6th vigil that was held at the Rotary Hall in the Plex this year. It was very well attended, and thank you to our staff for accommodating that quick change of venue, and also to our police officers who participated in the ceremony actively and who protect our community every day by fighting all forms of violence against women and girls. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one thing basically is the Port Elgin Salmon Hatchery is up and running again this year. Of the 120,000 or so eggs that were collected in October, roughly about 85% or close to 100,000 have survived, and they're all hatched right now, and they're starting to swim around. And the tens of thousands of hours of volunteer work that goes in there is much appreciated, and it does so without any municipal support, doesn't ask for any, and does it through donations and through membership dues. And in addition to that, we have 3 schools, or 2 schools in Port Elgin. We used to have one in Southampton, but 2 schools in Port Elgin have the school hatcheries going, and they're both up and running, and they have eggs and swimmers in the schools for the kids to enjoy and experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Halpin. Councilor Davinsky.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a reminder, this Thursday is the annual Radiothon on 97.9 The Bruce, just to help raise funds for the Saugeen Memorial Hospital Foundation. Everyone is invited to drop in and say a few words on air and leave money, because that's what it's all about. So by all means, see you Thursday at 97.9 The Bruce.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I will certainly be there. And maybe that's just a good segue for me. Lots of stuff going on in our community. And I just wanted to mention or say happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all of my colleagues here and our staff and everybody across the community. This is, as I say, our last committee of the whole meeting, well, ever, but also for the year. And so it's our last opportunity to formally offer those greetings. And I, always say we live in the best community in the world. And what makes it so great is the altruism and generosity of the people who live here. So if you are out there and you have an opportunity to donate to any cause, really, whether it's the Radiothon, or whether it's a food bank, or you pick it, the women's shelters, your charity of your choice, now's a good time to do that. All those organizations are in need. We have a Canada Post strike going on. It's hard to raise money for these charitable organizations, or at least harder than usual. So I know I'm preaching to the converted out there in Saugeen Shores. Folks are pretty generous out there, but if you have the means, now's a good time to make those kinds of contributions across your community. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Councilor Halpin and Councilor Grace, all in favor? Committee of the whole is over. And with that, council convene at 9 o'clock. All right, then we will call to order this regular council meeting of December 9th, 2024. Second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We're on to additions, deletions, and amendments. We do have a couple of additions. The first one is recommended that council add the CCV update to the closed to public agenda. The resolution is that item 6.3.3 CCV update be added to the December 9, 2024 closed to public council meeting agenda under section 2392I of the Municipal Act. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by the deputy mayor. All in favor? That is carried. Second then is 3.2. It's recommended that council add bylaw 99, 2024, a bylaw to appoint the bylaw enforcement officer. And the resolution is that item 11.5 be added to the December 9, 2024 regular council agenda. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by Councilor Mayette. All in favor? That is carried. All right, so now we're on to item 4, adoption of minutes. The resolution is the council adopt the minutes of the regular council meetings of November 18, November 20, November 25, November 27, 2024, and note and file the minutes of committee of the whole meeting of November 25, 2024 as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Halpin, seconded by Davinsky. Questions or comments to any of those sets of minutes? Seeing none, then all in favor? That's carried. All right, so no public meetings. We're on to close to public. It's recommended that we enter close to public session to discuss a proposed acquisition of land by the municipality for parkland north of the Saugeen River and personal matters about identifiable individuals in relation to committee appointments. Further, that the addition to the agenda for the CCV update be discussed relative to commercial or financial information supplied in confidence to the municipality, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organizations. So the resolution is that council move into a closed public session in accordance with Municipal Act 2001, Section 2392. B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And I, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. Is there a mover and seconder? The Vice Deputy Mayor, Councillor Halpin. All in favor? That is carried. Council is now moving into a closed public session. Okay, so I have a resolution that council arise from the close to public session and resume the regular council meeting as their mover and seconder. Grace and Helpin, all in favor? That is carried. We're missing Davinsky. Is he coming back? I just realized. Okay, well, I'll proceed through this and then hopefully he'll join us while we're doing it. So I will report that council gave direction to staff on 6.3.1 potential opportunities for parkland north of the Saugeen River. And council also gave direction to staff on 6.3.3 of the CCV update. On 6.3.2, I have a larger report out to read. So I will report that during the closed public session, council, well, this is, I'm going to go back way all the way through this. We also adopted the minutes from the previous closed session meeting. I don't have to repeat this. Hold on a second. Okay, so can report out of closed a resolution, and the resolution is that council appoint committee members as recommended in the 2025-2026 committee appointment report. The full list of appointees will be listed in the council meeting minutes, and a bylaw for the committee of adjustment will come forward in July, but I will now read the 2025-2026 committee appointments now, and they are: the airport committee, public appointments will be John Willits, Randall Litton, Kevin Yuriskavich, and Eric Tolton. Council appointments will be Councillor Dave Mayette and Justin Duhame will be the alternate. For the Bruce Area Solid Waste Recycling, the council appointment will be Vice Deputy Mayor Mike Myatt. For the Clean Energy Frontier, the council appointment will be Councillor Justin Duhame. For the BIA Port Elgin, the council appointment will be the Deputy Mayor Diane Huber. For the BIA Southampton, the council appointment will be Councillor John Davinsky. For the Committee of Adjustment, public appointments will be Michael Martin, Richard Beckett, Hope Wallace, and Herb Schmidt. Council appointments will be the Deputy Mayor Diane Huber, who will be the chair of the committee, the Vice Deputy Mayor Mike Myatt, and Councillor Cheryl Grace. The Municipal Heritage Committee, public members will be Neil Minaj, Linda Dahl, Francis Barrick, Mary Ferguson, and Nicole Kiwagishig. Council appointments will be Councillor Cheryl Grace as chair, Vice Deputy Mayor Mike Myatt, and the alternate will be the Deputy Mayor Diane Huber. Saugeen Shores Police Services Board, the public appointment will be John Woodley. Council appointments will be Deputy Mayor Diane Huber and Councillor Rachel Stack. For Saugeen Mobility and Regional Transit Association, council appointment will be Councillor John Davinsky and Councillor Bud Helpin will be the alternate. The Saugeen Rail Trail Association, the council appointment will be Councillor Bud Helpin. For the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce, the council appointment will be the Vice Deputy Mayor Mike Myatt. For the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, the council appointment will be Councillor Bud Helpin and Councillor Dave Mayette. For the West Ontario Power Board, the council appointment will be myself, Mayor Luc Charbonneau, and the Nuclear Innovation Institute will also be myself, Mayor Charbonneau. So that is the recommendation. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? I need to get a mover and seconder for I'm told, so I guess I'll get the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Mayette, and then all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the report out from closed, and we are now going to move on to item 8, reports of the Committee of the Whole. And there is a committee report here, and the resolution is that council approve the 2025-2035 Saugeen Shores Fire Master Plan, and that council adopt bylaw 95-2024, a bylaw to authorize the implementation of the 2025-2035 Saugeen Shores Fire Master Plan. 2, that council adopt the public art policy. 3, that council approve the final design for the High Street reconstruction and cenotaph upgrade as amended, and that council refer the cenotaph matter to the striking committee to appoint a cenotaph ad hoc committee, and that council directs staff to retain parallel parking from Huron Street to Front Street. And 4, that council receive the 2024 third quarter variance to budget report for information. And 5, that council receive the lottery license procedure update report for information. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Grace. Questions or comments to that resolution? Seeing none, then all in favor? That is carried. 8.2 then is a committee report on the fair share resolution. The recommendation is that council endorse the resolution from the town of Aurora regarding the request for the redistribution of the provincial land transfer tax and GST to municipalities for sustainable infrastructure funding, and that this resolution be forwarded to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Premier Doug Ford, Minister of Finance Peter Bethenvolve, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Paul Calandra, MP Ben Lobb, MPP Lisa Thompson, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Mayette, second by Councillor Halpin. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Next is a committee report on the municipal support resolution for CANDU reactors. Resolution is the council endorse the resolution from Bruce County regarding the municipal support for the CANDU reactors. And this resolution be forwarded to Premier Doug Ford, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Federal Minister of Natural Resources Jonathan Wilkinson, Minister of Energy and Electrification Stephen Lecce, Minister of Rural Affairs Lisa Thompson, Ministry of Natural Resources Graydon Smith, Bruce County local municipalities and neighboring counties. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Councillor Davinsky. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. And finally, committee report on the protection of agricultural lands and sustainable development resolution. The resolution is the council endorsed the resolution from the township of Pushlinch regarding the protection of agricultural lands and sustainable development in relation to provincial projects and excess soil management practices. And this resolution be forwarded to Premier Doug Ford, Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, Andrea Conahan, Minister of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness, Rob Flack, and Minister of Rural Affairs, Lisa Thompson, is their mover and seconder. Moved by Davinsky, seconded by Grace. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. All right, and now we're on to item 9, report of municipal officers and committees. And the first is on the Walker House encroachment agreement. There is a resolution that council adopt bylaw 98/2024, a bylaw to authorize the execution of an encroachment agreement for 146 High Street, Southampton. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by Halpin. Questions or comments to the resolution? The Deputy Mayor.
Just a question concerning, there already is an encroachment onto the sidewalk. I would presume that they're paying a fee associated with that already. So there's no additional fee attached to this beyond what is already being paid? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Director of Development Services.
How's that? It's my understanding that there currently is not a fee being paid for the existing ramp, and the fee that is built into the draft agreement would be for the area that the porch, which includes the ramp, covers of the sidewalk. And so that's an ongoing future fee subject to the agreement.
Thank you. Seeing that there's no fee being charged right now, this is such, you know, it's a business in downtown Southampton that in many ways sustains the downtown. It's open 12 months of the year. It's open at least 6 days a week most of the time. It's got, you know, a significant number of staff members who are compensated appropriately and, you know, have all kinds of other perks associated with their employment there. I just, you know, is there some appetite perhaps to waiving the fee? It's a very small amount, but if they're not paying a fee already for something that's on the ground, what we're talking about is above the ground, so even less intrusive, I guess, into the pedestrian experience.
And certainly you can make a motion to that effect, Deputy Mayor. The only thing I would caution is that it does set something of a precedent for what we're doing, and we're all big fans of the Walker House. Yeah, I certainly am. But there may be other circumstances in the core where we do wish to charge an encroachment fee, and if we don't do it in this circumstance because we like the Walker House and we do it in another circumstance where we have different relationships with the property owner, that could become a problem for us. So that's my only reservation, just to make sure we're treating everybody equally, the Deputy Mayor.
Well, before I make a motion, then, can I just ask, all of the restaurants that have patios on sidewalks, and they're in both locations. I realize in Port Elgin there's maybe a couple that have different situations, but did we charge fees associated with those encroachments this past year? Were they all charged?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, they pay a fee.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments, Councillor Helbin?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I just wanted to comment that for any businesses or people out there, this is the way you do it. If you want an encroachment, you come and talk to us, and we're here to support and help. And good for them for stepping forward. And it makes it a lot easier for the people that make encroachments, and then we have to backtrack and you know, do things retro. So thank you to the Walker House for doing things the right way, being a good corporate citizen. Thank you.
Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. To add to Councillor Halpin's comments, The Walker House also presented their plans to the Municipal Heritage Committee several months ago, which is also much appreciated. Thanks.
All right, so the recommendations, or the resolution, I should say, has been moved and seconded. If there's nothing further, then I will ask all in favor. That's carried. All right, so now we're on to 9.2, single source purchase for Parks garbage truck. This resolution, the council approved the single source purchase of a Parks garbage truck from Next Gen Municipal Incorporated as included within the 2025 business plan. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Mayette, seconded by Grace. Questions or comments, the deputy mayor?
Thank you. I should have asked the director this question in advance, but I actually went and looked at the website for Next Gen Municipal Inc. It's a Canadian company, and it was mentioned about the single source. And I wanted to know what the vehicle might look like for that price. Do you know the model number that you're looking at? I should have asked you in advance, sorry, because
No,
I thought there might have only been one, but there were 3 or 4 vehicles described as park models.
thank you for the question, and if I get this right, I get a prize, I think. But I did bring some of the information that Frank forwarded on. So the model number is an M-Class M 1600 multi-purpose modular collection body.
Oh, I
So
think,
what I can do for council too is send a picture. If you like, it'll look similar to our current truck.
thank you. Can you send us a picture? I just wanted to ask then, beyond the new vehicle, the one that we're using now, what's the lifespan that we're talking about for the new purchase? And is there any way to recycle the old one into some other activity, or is it scrap now?
Thank you for the question, and through you, I'll have to get back to you on the expected life cycle. I know it will depend on if it operates 12 months of the year, which we are doing now because we have the in-ground garbage containers. And so this truck is actually equipped with a crane, and that's how we lift them out, and then a side bin as well. So I can get that information back to you. And sorry, what was we will look at Gov Deals and likely list it and send it and sell it hopefully to another municipality or private business that could use it.
Very good. Anything further on this one? Seeing none then, it's been moved and seconded, so all in favor? That is carried. All right, item 9.3 then, Innovation Park. There's a resolution there. The council direct that the valuation of the lands in the Innovation Park shown as parts 1 through 18 and 20 on Plan 3R-10829 be determined through formal appraisal process. Is there a mover and seconder for the resolution? Councillor Grace, Councillor Halpin, questions or comments to the resolution? The deputy mayor?
Not understanding completely how the process would take place. Will this take into account all of the public dollars that have already gone into creating those lots, meaning the land purchase and the servicing that's gone in there? Or will all of that be part of this process?
The CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, apologies, a little late, but the appraisal process will be a report out that outlines all of those pieces that they look at into determining the price.
Okay, Councillor Mayette.
I took a drive through the Innovation Park today, and I noticed one of the lots has the generator on it. What's the purpose of that generator?
Does anybody here have that answer? We can count, staff will get back to you on that. I don't think anybody in the room is
Okay.
aware.
Is it on? It looks to be on one of the lots. Okay.
We'll get you that information. Anything else? If not, then all in favor? Thought there was. Anyway. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. All right, so now we're on to 9.4, Municipal Heritage Committee. That's the one time I was right. I'm almost never right. Municipal Heritage Committee, Saugeen Shores Lawn Bowling Club Heritage Designation Request. And the resolution is the council direct staff to designate the property at 34 Victoria Street North, Southampton, known as the Saugeen Shores Lawn Bowling Club, under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, for its historical, associative, contextual, and physical value. Is there a mover and seconder? Councillor Grace, Councillor Davinsky. Questions or comments? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make a couple of comments on behalf of the Municipal Heritage Committee. This committee is very pleased to recommend the heritage designation of the Saugeen Shores Lawn Bowling Club, which is located at 34 Victoria Street North in Southampton. This application presents the cultural heritage value of the club building and bowling greens, relevant to its design and heritage, associative and contextual value. This application, prepared by our wonderful local heritage volunteer, Sheila Latham, has the approval of town staff as well as the club's board and membership. The facility has been owned by the town since 1956, and town staff and club board members have been involved throughout the process of preparing this application. Early on, members of the Heritage Committee met with staff and the board to ensure that all concerns were resolved. Located across Victoria Street from the Bruce County Museum, the Lawn Bowling Club building has been a valued cultural landmark since its 1913 construction by the Southampton Lawn Bowling and Tennis Club. In 2009, the Port Elgin Lawn Bowling Club joined with Southampton and is now known as the Saugeen Shores Lawn Bowling Club. Built in the Regency style, the clubhouse's designer and builder, Alfred Richley, was well known in this field in Toronto and the Eastern United States, as well as being responsible for the Walkerton Electric Light Company powerhouse and dam. The founders of the club were leaders of Southampton in every field imaginable, with the surnames of Bowman, Macaulay, Huber, Eckford, Hilmer, Harmer, Buckley, McVitie, and Rayner as examples. Designating this property will preserve these individuals' vision and contributions to our sporting and cultural history for many years to come. The current Lawn Bowling Club membership must also be recognized for its creative leadership in revitalizing the club and creating renewed interest in this ages-old sport. Many thanks to Steve Henkel and his board and staff members Frank Burrows and Kristen Schreider, as well as another shout out to Sheila Latham for the hours of work she put into preparing this application. It's an outstanding repository of information about early 20th century Southampton.
Thank you very much. Further questions or comments? I guess just on behalf of council, just want to express our thanks to you, Councilor Grace, and to the Heritage Committee, Ms. Latham, everyone who has done a tremendous amount of work on this. This is another, you guys are on a roll. You've got a number of great designations happening, which is, I think, exciting for the committee and for the community. And this was another great success by the community, and definitely, absolutely, a facility well worth both celebrating and preserving. So, so well done. If there's nothing further, then all in favor? That is carried. All right, now we're on to 11 bylaws, 5 bylaws there for consideration. Anybody wish to consider any of those on its own? Seeing no request for that, and the resolutions of bylaws 95, 2024, 96, 2024, 97, 2024, 98, 2024, and 99, 2024 are hereby read a first, second, and third time and passed and sealed this 9th day of December, 2024. Is there a mover and seconder? The Vice Deputy Mayor and Councillor Halpin. Questions or comments? Seeing none, then all in favor? And opposed? That's carried. All right, next then is the confirmatory bylaw, and the resolution is the bylaw 90, 2024, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Town of Saugeen Shores. It's hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of December, 2024. Is the mover and seconder? Davinsky and Councillor Mayette. All in favor? That is carried. And finally, a resolution of this regular council meeting of December 9, 2024 hereby adjourns at 10:28 p.m. Mover and seconder, please. Grace and Halpin, all in favor? Council stands adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.